Peach strawberry fruit leather is such a great, easy snack for the kids. I really like making this one because not only does it use some of my canned foods, but it also gives them something that they can really quickly grab as they're headed out the door to cross country or track practice or when they're going to dance. And then it provides something that they can share too that's a healthy snack. I can't tell you how many times they've gone with handfuls and they come back with nothing because all their friends have eaten them too. I begin by removing the greenery of 1 pound of strawberries, and the way I do that is I use my little hulling device. You could use a paring knife, but this is so easy. All I do with this is I place it in the strawberry, turn it, pull it out, and with it comes the stem, and there's just this little plug, so I feel like it saves the majority of the strawberry. And then I just push the button and that core comes right out and I'm ready for the next one. And then they just go right into my blender. I'll then add my 2 quarts of drained peaches to my blender as well. And this will put my blender up to just about its max as far as how much it can hold. I love the Vitamix though, it really works great. I'll then turn on the blender and puree this until it's nice and smooth. I can usually do about 2 cups worth on a tray. This is about 7.5 cups, so it'll do 4. The way I prepare for those is I actually want to oil them. Sometimes it can be really difficult to get them off these trays. And now these are actually pretty nice ones. I like to get the ones that feel super smooth because then it doesn't tend to stick as much. But in addition to that, I do the coconut oil. I like the coconut because if there's any of the flavor on there, it doesn't make a difference. If I tried olive oil or something like that, that might not be so great. I've done vegetable oil too with no complaints, but coconut oil is probably my favorite. And I just want to make it so that there's a nice film of oil over the entire tray. I'll pour my fruit leather on the trays, just making an estimate of how much it needs. And then I add to them as I get done and realize, one needs more than the other. If you wanted to measure it out, I suppose you could. This has worked pretty well for me though. Now that I've done my last one, I just kind of look back and see which ones need a little bit more. It's usually the ones I've done at first because I try to be a little conservative in the beginning. As soon as I get my blender empty, I rinse it out. I've found that it's much easier to get it clean that way. And then I just kind of wiggle my trays back and forth a little bit to get them level. I might still have some little areas like right here that it hasn't filled in, but I don't worry about it too much. The one area that I do worry about is if I have an area like right here where it actually came up on the other tray, and I'll try to get that off. And that's just because it sticks to it pretty good once it starts dehydrating. The shaking of the trays just makes it so that it's nice and level, and that makes it so that it dries at the same rate, really, because otherwise you have differing thicknesses. Be gentle though, because otherwise it can go over the edges. I'll then set it for 130 degrees and let it go for 10 to 12 hours. It can differ depending on where you're at. The biggest thing is just to check it and make sure it's totally dry. Sometimes the top will be dry, but when you go to peel it up, you realize that there's a little bit of moisture underneath against the tray. And if that's the case, you just put it back on the dehydrator and let it keep going. It's been about 12 hours and my fruit leather is all done. So now I just have to remove it from my tray. Anywhere that it got up near the surface at the edge here, it tends to stick just a little bit more because of course that doesn't have the oil on there. But because of the oil, it just comes off really nicely. And I try to do this while everything's warm so that it's nice and pliable. Then I'll use my kitchen shears to cut this in quarters. I then place it on my square of plastic. I'll fold over some of the plastic wrap, and then I just roll it up and tuck in my ends. I'll then place these in an airtight container. For me, that's usually a freezer bag. I've put them in mason jars before too, but the freezer bags are just nice because a lot of times the kids will just grab the bag itself on their way out the door. Or they'll put it in their backpack and they'll use it for multiple different days. I've even taken them sometimes, not this big an amount, but I'll put them in the bottom of my purse, and it's great for if I'm on the go and then I realize that I need some kind of a snack. So I actually saved a little corner of one just so that I could have a taste tester. Okay, so definitely nice and chewy. The peach is the strongest component of it, but you get just a little hint of the strawberry flavor right at the end. And it's sweet, but has just a hint of tart right at the back. Really good.